blah, 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 blah.
Welcome to the Our Forever Smiles podcast, a podcast created to support mothers of children who were born with clefts and those who love them. I'm your host, Laura Arroyo, and I'm also a mother of a daughter who was born with a surprise cleft palate. I know the challenges you face every day, whether you have just learned the difficult news of your baby's cleft lip or palate, you're in the midst of pre-op or post-op, or you're an OG cleft mom. This podcast is for you. In a weekly conversation, we will talk about everything from feeding and speech therapy to surgery and school. We'll share tips from guest experts and advocates and even share a little joy in the process. You can listen to Our Forever Smiles wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned. Hello, and welcome back to the Our Forever Smiles Cleft Mom Diaries and Support podcast. I am Laura Arroyo. Thank you to all of our subscribers, new and old. I appreciate all of the support that we received from this wonderful community. You can listen to us via Apple, Spotify, and everywhere that podcasts are available. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not yet, and stay tuned. If you are interested in sharing your story on the podcast, please feel free to email me at ourforeversmiles@gmail.com. We would love to have you on. We'd love to listen to your story here. Just as a note, we are not medical doctors, and we do not intend for you to use the information that we share here as medical advice. We are parents and advocates who love our children, and we are sharing our own personal experiences. So hi, everyone. I do have an update on Juselle this week, which is really exciting. Well, it's exciting to share information or anything about her or to talk about her because that's my little joy. But the news that I'm going to share is really not so exciting. Just something interesting really happened to us last week. Juselle started daycare at 1 year old, and so anyway, I walked into her classroom, and when I walked in, I saw another little student there sitting she had like little red eyes. And so, of course, my first thought is that this child has pink eye. And like, sure enough, it didn't take long before the entire class was like filled with little red-eyed monsters. So all of them had little red eyes and including Juselle. So while it was kind of silly and like cute, I did end up taking her into the pediatrician just to make sure that what she had, after doing some like Googling, I thought maybe it would pass but it lingered on for a while. So I took her in to see if it needed to be treated. And sure enough, during her exam, she discovered that Juselle needed some antibiotics, not only for her eye, but she also had an ear infection. And then she also discovered that Juselle is missing an ear too. And the other one is on its way out. So what started as a cute story of a bunch of little red-eyed monsters is now turned into a possible procedure. And so I had scheduled her with the ENT, which was a whole other story with insurance. And yeah, just continue to keep us in prayer because I didn't really want that to be the case, but she may have to have another procedure to get her tubes back in. But anyway, I'll keep you all updated on that. I am so happy to introduce our guest for today. Her name is Alexis. Alexis is a single mom of 3 and an entrepreneur. And she was actually introduced to me through Dr. Holguin, which you probably have already heard her episode here. Dr. Holguin sung her praises here. So I'm just thrilled to know more about Alexis. You know, she's obviously a superwoman, super mom. And so really excited to talk to her about her cleft journey today. Welcome, Alexis.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. So I was very, very eager to talk to you because of Dr. Holguin. I feel like that was such a sweet episode. First of all, what a beautiful woman, right? Like, just she is literally like she radiates like through the screen. I was, I've never met her in person, and but there's just something about like you have this feeling about someone when you speak with them that I genuinely get from her. And I feel like sometimes talking to doctors can be a little bit intimidating, maybe a little bit. And so, especially in this space, I feel like as I was sharing with Alexis before we started the episode, I by no means am an expert in any of this, right? I'm just a parent, and my daughter was born with a cleft palate, and I felt lost, and so I didn't have all the resources and all the tools, and so kind of talking to an expert can be a little bit intimidating. And so while Dr. Olguin is just a small part of your story, just really quick while we're talking about that, how did you meet her?
You know what? Well, I had actually gotten introduced to her shortly after I got our cleft diagnosis for my daughter. She was born with a unilateral cleft lip and palate. So we kind of did like a little bit of pre-op, I guess, kind of just an introduction to the whole team. It can be very overwhelming. But honestly, once I met our surgeon and Dr. Olguin, my perspective just kind of shifted and I knew that I was going to be okay. You know, you meet these people who genuinely love their job and who genuinely love taking care of these babies and helping not only the babies, but their families as well. You know, like you said, they radiate joy and you just feel it. And I knew that my kid was going to be in the best hands possible, hands down. Like you said, I just had that gut feeling.
Yeah. So take me back to finding out about your baby's clef, right? Like I feel like, now we are past the point of maybe fear or uncertainty and all of that. But so tell me about, I guess, those initial feelings when you first found out.
I was 21 weeks pregnant and we did the anatomy scan. And oddly enough, I have I guess a distant cousin who was born with a cleft lip and palate as well. I did not know too much. I was like maybe 10 when this all came about. And I actually called it out on the screen once I saw my baby. She is my last. So I have had 2 previous children. So I'm no expert by any means, but I did see a difference, in that scan. I saw her kind of looking like a cat. And I had said to the technician, it looks like she might have a cleft lip and palate. And all he could say was, and that's the nasal cavity, because they're not allowed to like disclose information before going over it with the doctor. Yeah, that's something that I did not want to be right about. I love being right, but that was something that I was not happy to be right about. Yeah. So you know what? The doctor took a while to come into my room. And right then and there, I knew, something was off. Once he kind of started saying, you know what, your baby is healthy, but I blanked out. My heart sank into my stomach. And even now, thinking back to that time, I still get that same like pit in my stomach of like not knowing what the future held for my daughter. And I'm sure you felt the same way with yours. Just didn't know too much about it. Like I said, I do have a distant cousin. I wasn't involved in any of that. And times have changed so much. So first thing that I was thinking about is just like, my poor baby, what does this mean for our future? What does this mean for her future? Is she going to be able to eat? Is she going to be able to drink? What are people going to think of her? All of those mixed emotions,
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting, like just listening to you because I feel like a lot of people have those, when you're reflecting back, like all of those feelings like come rushing back to you, right? That feeling, not knowing what's going to happen. And so, and so were her ultrasound pictures just like so super clear that you just, or, or was she just forward facing? I feel like, I don't know. The reason why I asked is because or maybe I'm just kind of dumb, but
No, you're not. Don't ever say that about yourself.
I feel like I wouldn't have picked it out at all. Like, I don't know.
And it's only because I have two older kids, and I've always been so fascinated with their sonograms, and I would tell people, look at her eye, look at his nose, and nobody could ever see it, and unless you're there with the sonographer or the ultrasound tech, like going through these things, you have no idea what you're looking at when you look at a sonogram. So like I said, just because of the anatomy scan, I saw a hand, I saw a foot. And then when he passed over her face, she was behaving that day. So she was forward facing. And yeah, like I said, I just saw a piece kind of missing with her nasal cavity in her mouth. The doctor even commented like, wow, you're so good. I need to hire you. I'm like, please don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the one. I don't want to be the one to find these things. Like, my heart is in my stomach, sir. Please, that's the last thing that I needed.
Yeah. And having, I guess, two other children after receiving that news, what type of support did you receive, like from your family, if any, or I guess who was the, person that you shared this information with to help you during that time?
That time, if we're being completely honest, was a very, very rough time for me. I, since then, have divorced my ex-husband because he just wasn't very supportive. But I have definitely leaned into my mom so much. She is the one that was helping me through the diagnosis. She was the one here with me while I was crying in the car and crying at home and crying in the shower. Just a lot of crying. But
Yeah.
she has just been the one who has been my backbone, honestly. She's been with me to all of the appointments. Wherever she can help, she's there. She's willing and she's happy to do it. So I'm really grateful for
Yeah.
her. And not only that, but I have a huge family and they're quick to ask how I'm doing, if I need anything, if the baby needs anything, if my older kids need anything. So that's been really, really nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I feel like you really need someone there when you have a child that is born with any type of medical condition. I think that, oh man, like I only have one, so I can't imagine
It
three.
is so hard. I don't know what TikTok moms are saying that it's easy. It's not.
My goodness. I just remember after having her, I literally, and this is like not even Cleft related. I literally was thinking to myself, I cannot believe that people do this more than once. Like,
Me.
I people to do this. But so I guess after you were able to find out during that scan that she was a girl as well, or
Well, initially, because I have a girl and a boy, I wanted her to be a surprise gender when I give birth. But I felt that the cleft diagnosis was enough of a shock. And I didn't want to have to deal with two kinds of shocks when she was born. So I asked not to see the gender at that anatomy scan. But then my family did a little gender reveal once I kind of told them what was
yeah,
they planned something super small, super intimate. And it was really nice, finding out that she was a little girl. I don't know if you know this or not, but I hear that the majority of clefts are male. So I was a little
mm,
shocked to find out that she was a girl.
yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. I could see that. Yeah, yeah. I looked into that as well. That it's more prevalent in boys. Yeah. So tell me about when she was born. So I'm pretty sure that, you had some anticipation for this day, maybe a little bit of nerve, maybe, excitement as well. But what was that feeling like when she was born?
Honestly, this is probably going to sound really weird, and I'm so sorry if I get a little choked up. But I just feel like I wasn't ready to have her. I just wanted to keep her in my belly, safe from the world, safe from criticism, safe from stares. Yeah, so going into labor was kind of like, I don't know, I was just very anxious just because I knew that day a whole new chapter of our life was going to be opening and it was going to be a hard one. So that's kind of hard to expect.
Yeah. And forgive me if this is like too personal or maybe even irrelevant, but was your husband were you still with your ex-husband during this time that she was born, or?
No, you know what? Again, this is going to sound a little dramatic, but I had actually filed a protective order. So we were still pending. So he was not there at all. He had actually never even met her. He's completely out of the picture. So yeah, it was just me and my mom. Again, my biggest supporter. She was with me, and the doctor decided that getting induced on a Thursday would work out best, just in case my daughter needed to go to NICU or anything like that. He knew that the full team was going to be there on a Friday, just that she would have the best care possible.
Yeah. And what was the, I guess, how did the hospital prepare for her arrival? I've spoken to moms where they had all hands on deck in the room. And I've also spoken to moms where they were like, really? It was, everyone was like super chill and it was just like a normal thing. So I guess, how did the hospital prepare you for what they were going to do that day?
Well, I had actually gone in before, when you register, my doctor advised me to talk to the NICU team just in case my daughter was to go to the NICU. I'm familiar with the place, what it looks like, where it is, and the nurses and stuff. So it was nice to see familiar faces in the rooms, but it wasn't anything crazy like I was expecting. When my OBGYN talked to me and kind of went over this whole process, she made it seem like there was going to be like 13 people in the room. It was nothing like that. It was like a couple of NICU nurses just in case. My mom, kind of normal, just like maybe 2 or 3 more people there.
Yeah. And I guess, why did you ask at any point during your pregnancy why they were so, I mean, not so, but why sort of this anticipation that she might need the NICU? I feel like a lot of moms have this fear, and they always ask, is my child going to have to go to the NICU just because they have the cleft? Did they like share why they put that measure in place or anything?
You know what? They did mention feeding issues. I guess it's pretty common with cleft babies. I honestly, with like my high risk doctor before I met the cleft team, I felt a little in the dark. And seeing that baby in 3D honestly freaked me out. Like, she did not look human. And I know a lot of like the babies really don't. They all just look like squishy little marshmallows in there. And then when they come out, you're like, oh, okay, there's actually a human that was there. Yeah, I mean, when I did see her in 3D, it almost looked like she couldn't breathe. Like something was blocking her nose. She did not come out looking anything like her 3D scan. So if there's a mom freaking out over their 3D scan, don't. But yeah, I guess that's when I kind of asked like what the procedures were, because to me, it looked like she could not breathe. And I was worried about breastfeeding because I know that was something that I really wanted to do. So that's when she kind of told me, like, you know what, this is usually what's standard. I've seen this. Not too much information, like I said, but she did kind of let me know who was going to be in there, who from the NICU, OBGYN, and kind of like a little rundown.
Yeah. And so, was your daughter born with both the cleft lip and cleft palate?
Yes.
Okay. And were you able to breastfeed your previous 2 children?
Yes, I actually breastfed them both for 14 months each.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so I guess, what was that feeling? Did they share with you anything about not being able to breastfeed when your daughter was born, or
Yeah.
did you have kind of like supportive of trying to take that route?
They were very supportive of it, but they also did let me know that she was going to receive a NAM device, which is going to make it impossible for her to latch on directly. I mean, maybe not impossible for her, but very painful for me. They kind of did give me the heads up. But when she was there, I just tried to latch her, and the nurses were very, very, very encouraging and very supportive of that. And she actually did latch. So that was surprising. I know that they say that they can't create suction, but this girl is just a fighter through and through. So yeah, I ended up pumping for a little while, but for sanity reasons, I had to stop because it was just a lot with NAM. two other kids, work, and yeah, a lot of spilled milk, a lot of tears. So
Yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine that. Oh, so you're ready to give birth to her and she arrives. And what are those initial feelings when you see her finally?
you know what? I had actually been praying so hard that she was going to be born with a complete palate. She was going to look, I guess, quote unquote, normal. So seeing her for the first time was very shocking. And I guess I just want to be real. I was kind of like, I don't want to use the word like disappointed because that's definitely not the word. I was, I guess, just shocked would be the right word, just to see what she looked like, because in that 3D sonogram, she did not look human. And just seeing this perfectly imperfect little thing, oh my gosh, my heart just exploded for her, And when I was pregnant, I knew I was going to love her, but I didn't know how I was going to feel about seeing the cleft for the first time. And so I was kind of nervous about that. But oh my gosh, once you see her, it was just game changer. It was just my everything in that moment, that first second that I saw the doctor with her. Yeah, it was just beautiful, beautifully different.
I love that. You know, you bring up a point that I've been meaning to talk to a mom about. I've seen a lot of people in groups and stuff, and just like moms that have shared their stories as well. I guess about this feeling like worried about the way that their child is going to look, and just this overall like this battle, right? Because obviously you love your child and you would do anything for this child, just that you're saying that it was almost bittersweet to even have her because you wanted to keep her so close to you and protect her from the world. But
Mm-hmm.
then there's this other piece of you that like also, just to be clear, wants your baby to be cute. You feel like there's this like, thing that that you have that you want that. And so I don't know. I feel like there's it's also that shame and that guilt that also comes with that, right? That you have this feeling, oh, why am I even thinking about something like that?
Oh my, I feel
Or
like absolutely. I feel like that is just like not talked about enough. And
yeah,
just like you said, like, of course, we're going to love our children no matter what. But it's just like nerve wracking to know that they're going to look different. You don't really
yeah,
know what to expect. And not only that, I was honestly worried about other people. And looking back, I wish I would have not been like that. But it's also important to know that it's okay to feel your feelings, guilt and all, sadness, joy, mourning, guilt. It's normal, not talked about
yeah,
as much, but definitely normal, I think.
yeah. I feel like so many people are so like afraid to talk about that feeling in particular. They kind of like shy away from saying that or feel like I guess I don't know, maybe that other people will attack them for feeling that way or yeah.
Yeah.
But I do say like, that those feelings are totally normal.
Mm-hmm.
And just like you said, you feel your feels, like
Yeah.
it's okay.
Mhm. Like, and feel them, because there's going to be a lot of crying. Heads up,
Yeah.
there's a lot of crying. Not only sad tears, happy tears, but yeah, goodness gracious, nothing could have prepared me for all this crying that I was going to have in a 10-month span. And I'm still going strong.
Oh yeah. Yeah. A lot of crying from everyone, everywhere, all the time.
Oh my goodness.
So you do have two children that we've talked about. And did you do anything to prepare them for her arrival? Did you do any educating like while you had her sonograms or
Yeah.
hey, this is respect for your little sister?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I had to slowly, because it took me a while to kind of like not necessarily accept it, but just kind of deal with my own personal feelings first. But yeah, absolutely. I did talk to them about what a cleft lip and palate is. what it looks like, showed them the sonograms, Googled a bunch of pictures. Stay away from Google. That's another thing. Me and Google, we're not friends. But yeah, just kind of educating them and getting them prepared for the questions as well, because kids are so innocent and they're so beautiful, but they also will just tell you things like it is. And I mean, right when she was born and their friends did see her, I'm so glad that I did that preparation with them, because they were ready with the answers instead of kind of looking at me looking at them. Yeah. And now they're little advocates. It's just the cutest thing. They are always telling people, yeah, sister has a cleft lip and palate, and she has to use special bottles, and she's going to have a surgery soon. So it's just so beautiful. And not only that, but the community that they've built and like their friends is just really sweet to see how accepting they are of my baby. You know, they just see her as this beautiful little thing despite her differences. And it's really beautiful to see, you know, with all the bullying and stuff in the world. I'm glad that we're at least introducing it to some of their peers so that they can be educated from here on forth.
Yeah, I love that. I've spoken to other moms that have children as well. And I think that sometimes, I guess maybe sometimes it's easier when you have children that are younger and so they don't really notice or really are paying attention. But just to even hear that, your children are advocates and already know
Yes. And then
something combating, like, you know, bullying in their own community, right? Like preventing bullying one child at a time.
yes. Oh, they know that if anybody messes with their sister, oh no, it's over. And she has 2 little fighters for her.
Oh,
And yeah, too, because they'll spot cleft lip and palate babies. So they're like, are we going to go see the cleft lip and palate babies? Are we going to go see the cleft babies? And it's just, it's so cute. There just aren't enough words to describe it. My heart just explodes.
yeah. Oh, that's such a beautiful thing. I love that. And so has your daughter had her lip surgery yet?
She did. It was interesting.
So how did that go? What was your initial reaction in seeing her post-op?
As much as I say I wanted to cry, I think I was in like mom mode, and I was just like, how
Yeah.
do I comfort her? Because she was in so much pain and she was just so swollen, my poor baby. Yeah. So it was definitely different. I feel like she just looked like a whole new kid. But that cry was very familiar, that pain cry. So it was really hard, you know. It was just like I said, looking back on it now, again, here we are with the crying. I cry and I just thinking about the feelings that I had in that moment. But I do recognize that I was like in mom mode. I was in comforting mode. I was in what's the next step? Yeah, until it kind of maybe like a few days later is I think when it kind of the feelings kind of settled in and I started mourning her original smile.
Yeah. I was wondering whether you experienced that as well, the grieving of the original smile and all that comes with that. I've heard of people have really, really hard time accepting the new smile. It's like after all of this, as we've said in this episode, after all this crying you did with the original diagnosis, just for you to be just as upset
Yeah.
with the once they have their surgery. Hard. It's a journey, right? It's so many ups and downs and roller coaster of emotions and who wants to see their child just in pain anyway? And it's difficult. It really is. It's hard.
Yes. It it's something that I don't think if you try to explain it to somebody who's not a cleft mom, I don't think anybody really understands. You know, you created that perfect, beautiful face. Cleft, you know what I mean? Cleft or not, that's the face that you created. And even though it may be imperfect to the world and under imperfect circumstances, that baby is just perfect in your eyes. You know, you start missing that big gap. And it's hard. It's hard to let that go and accept the new one. But then you realize it's for her benefit, and, and now she looks quote unquote normal. And she's just been through so much. We both have. So it's definitely been, like you said, a journey.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to one thing that I think is really important that I forgot to touch on. But before her surgery and just meeting with your Cleft team, how soon after her diagnosis did you start meeting with them?
I got diagnosed. Let me see. We received her diagnosis in October. I want to say maybe like January is when we started kind of meeting with them, and she was due in March.
Now, who did you meet? Who did you meet during that time? Who did they connect you with during those initial appointments?
You know what? At first, I had my regular OBGYN. And then once I got that diagnosis, I went to a high-risk doctor. And then after that is when they sent me over to our surgeon, Dr. Yates. He's amazing. And then from there is when I got another referral to Dr. Orgin to kind of go into depth about what the NAM is, because he kind of touched base on it. But that's definitely Dr. Orgin's specialty. So he sent me over to her. And after that, I don't think we met anybody else until after she was born. And that's when we had her ENT, and we kind of did forgive me because I don't even know the proper terminology, but I guess once a year you have like a Cleft meeting where you go see everybody that's on her team that you probably haven't even met yet. And then we also enrolled her into therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. And then she has a developmental specialist on her team as well. But this was all after she was born.
Gotcha. Okay. And what I wanted to get to as well is because a big part of the conversation that I had with Dr. Orgin was just everything related to the NAM. And so, of course, she's a big advocate for it because she's seen the results of mothers or children that have used the NAM. And so I guess I know sometimes in some situations you feel like you don't have the answer, so you're just kind of going with what everyone just told you to do. I know for me, well, maybe I'll just speak for myself. I know for me, it's like, okay, we're signing you up for this appointment and you got to go see this person. And I really didn't have much of it was just almost I was supposed to do it like at that point. And so I just kind of went with the flow. But I know that there are some people that choose not to do the NAM. And so I guess my question with that is, what made you decide to use the NAM versus a taping? Or did you ever question the process when doing that?
You know what? I felt very similar feelings to you because you're kind of just in a fog and you trust that these people have your baby's best interest first. But honestly, no, I did not question it. I just thought it was something that I had to do. And our surgeon did explain, you know what, this is going to help her. And once he kind of said that this was going to help her, I was sold. I just said, okay, perfect. If it's going to help her, if it's going to help her results and just overall, then count us in.
Yeah, I love that. I think that, well, first, I mean, I when different specialists work closely together because I feel when there's a stronger collaboration or strong communication, I feel it does end up being, the best outcomes for our children. But talk to me about your experience with the NAM now. From what I've heard, it's not the funnest thing.
It's hard. It's very hard. Did your
Yeah.
daughter have to do it?
So Giselle's not lip affected. She's only palate affected. And I
Okay.
did not find out until she was born.
Oh my gosh, that must have been really hard. You
Yeah.
didn't have time. You didn't have time to process and cry more.
I didn't. Yeah, I missed a whole 6 months of crying.
Oh,
Those 6 months of crying are necessary.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
But
Yeah.
no, Yeah, I was thrown into the fire and I was at a complete loss and she had a complete cleft palate. So it was no roof at all.
Oh my
Um
gosh. Okay.
yeah, so she has had her repair and she's been doing wonderful since. So yes. Well, you can always check back in on this podcast.
Yes, I'm going to have to go back and listen to every single episode and message you personally and get notes from every single person, message every single one of them personally, because I'm not ready. Yeah.
Yeah. But see, you'll do fine. I've you've been through it once with her lip and I mean I wanna say it gets easier, but it doesn't. I mean, it's and it also depends on your child's temperament and it can be a lot. But anyway,
Yeah.
the NAM. So you say that it's really hard. Tell me about your experience.
You know what? It was extremely difficult. I mean, you kind of hear about it, but I guess you don't really know about it until you're, like you said, in the fire. The first thing that was really, really hard was the fact that my baby had to go to the NICU for an impression for the NAM. So that was step number one at the hospital a couple days after I had her. That was already making me want to quit because I did not want to go home without my baby. And that was like the hardest thing to accept. And normally, I guess maybe if she was born at a different time, a different day, I don't really know what might have affected it. But she had to stay in the NICU from Sunday afternoon until Tuesday morning. So the fact that she had to like fast and it was just a huge thing. That was sign number one that I really wanted to quit. I was over it at step one, literally. Then 2 weeks later, they called us saying that her device was ready. And that was sorry, I'm getting choked up. That was one of the hardest days, Let me compose myself.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I was gonna say myself, I always because my daughter spent time in the NICU too, and I think thinking back, even listening to you as well, I feel I can't explain the feeling of not coming home with your baby. Like it feels unnatural. Like it feels like I don't know.
like you're missing
I
a part
just
of you.
yeah, I
Yeah.
felt like my was ripped out of me,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
that was one of the harder moments for me. It's a lot of hard moments, but that's one that really, really sticks with me. That was like really hard
And you know what?
that I won't forget.
Yeah. And I don't know how people do it for longer. My heart truly goes out to them because, like I said, this was only for an impression. And she ended up, sorry, I keep on getting sidetracked from them, but I feel like this is like also a part that made it really, really hard for me to leave her there. Um, was the fact that she kept on choking when she was in the room with me. So I kind of had to explain that to the NICU nurses. And I just told them, you know what, like, because even they weren't very familiar with how to feed her. Like I had just given birth to this baby. You're the nurse. I don't know what I'm doing either. Like I'm winging it. Um, so trying to explain to them like how to feed her and the fact that she was choking. Literally right before I left, she ended up choking and turning completely purple. So
Mm.
that, yeah, like I said, and I just kept on thinking like this is just for an impression of a device that's going to hurt her but help her. That was just one thing that I came home and cried about because I was just like, this is definitely, I felt like a sacrifice, me being away from my baby, knowing that she choked and turned completely purple in the NICU. I had so many fears in literally like the third day that she was born. But sorry, back to the NAM. That was one of the hardest days of my life again. Seeing your tiny baby with that huge plastic thing in their mouth, it breaks you, and I really did embrace her face during those 2 weeks before we started this whole NAM process because I did see the before and the afters. So I tried to embrace her as much as possible and I took as many pictures as I could before she started this whole process because I knew it was going to be hard and I knew it was going to be a big transformation. And I remember walking out of that office just a hot mess. She was crying. I was crying. My mom was crying. It was it was hard, and then I specifically remember this mom who I still keep in touch with. We're great friends now. And Dr. Molding looked at me and said, don't worry, like you're going to be just like her. She came in and out, got her adjustment like nothing, and said, I promise you, you're going to be just like her. And you guys are going to get used to it and it's going to be okay. Yeah, just that whole process of NAM is just hard. It's painful. I had to have so much Motrin and Tylenol ready because her pain tolerance is not very good. So she would refuse to eat for like a day or two after her adjustments. And she ended up breaking out in rashes from the tapes. And we ended up going to a dermatologist. And like I said, just that whole NAM process is just, I don't think it's like talked about a lot.
Yeah.
And I think there's like a big gap with NAM. I feel like when outsiders kind of meet you and they see that your baby has a cleft lip and palate, all they say is, well, surgery can fix it, right? And I'm just like, well, you don't see the whole process behind everything. Like, you don't know that we're going to these weekly appointments to get her mouth to come together. And I'm just like, how can somebody tell me that when I'm going through this hard thing with her and she's in pain and I'm in pain? And yeah, there's just not enough, I guess, I don't want to say information, but I guess it's not talked about. It's just something that gets kind of skipped. It's from birth to surgery, and nobody really talks about NAM unless you're a cleft parent.
Yeah. Well, some people, I have found it not polarizing, but some people, they just decide not to do it.
Yeah.
Because of the whole process and just, they just don't want to do it. So I guess for those parents that are on the fence about it, one, do you regret doing it at all? And two, what are just, I don't know, just a few tips that could help them through the process, just emotionally, one, and then two, just things that may help with rashes or pain or things that I asked you like 5 questions in one question, but
Oh no, don't worry. I got it all down.
yeah.
I don't regret it at all. It was really hard. Another thing to take into account is not only are you changing this device every day, not only are you taking time to go to these appointments, dealing with a baby that's in pain, you also have to make bands for it. And that is one of the most frustrating things to do is you're literally there. You have to take time out of your day and make every single little band that your baby's going to use. Half of them pop, half of them fall off.
Yes.
It's frustrating, but I don't regret it at all. I look back now and I see the improvement that it made on her. And her lip repair looks amazing. And I would like to think that it had to do with the NAM, and her palate is closer together. So I feel like it makes eating easier. I just feel like it benefited her in every way, even though it was hard.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't get all the questions down. What was the other one? Some tips, right?
Yeah. So just tips for emotional, I guess, getting through that. I know like Dr. Olguin, one of the things that she talked to me about on her episode is having like seeing other moms there, right? And seeing yourself in them. That's going to be your next appointment, right? You're going to be in and out. You're going to feel better about this. This process is going to get easier. So that's one thing that she shared with me. I guess what are some other things that you think emotionally made the visits easier for you?
Emotionally, I think she was absolutely spot on with that. It's good to connect with other moms and kind of see and get their input on what to do next, on is this normal? It's good to have that community. Yeah, I don't think there's really anything else. It's just something that's hard, but definitely that community is great. I'm trying to think what else.
Yeah. that you did that really helped you out, or like,
Yes, absolutely. These are random, but one of the things that I did get was a huge bottle from Amazon of the adhesive remover that she used in the office. That saved my life because half the time I was worried about taking off these tapes and like chapping my daughter's skin because it's rough, and then you can't use like straight alcohol on their skin. She just has really, really sensitive skin. So I did buy a huge bottle of that, which saved my life. Just overstocking with like gauze, the denture glue. What else did I get? One of the things that helped me out a lot while we were doing NAM was just swaddling my baby and turning her kind of upside down. That was just the best way to get it done quickly. What else? Making as many vows as possible whenever you have the free time. You're going to become an expert at this. But just literally making so many, as many as you can in that free time, because like I said, they pop, they come off. There's always something happening with these vows. So just really stacking up on that, it definitely comes in handy, and it definitely saved me mentally.
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And so well, you talked a little bit about your mom being your support, but outside of that, like, how are you balancing all of this? How are you staying sane? How are you showing up for your family, and any tips on that?
That's, I ask myself that. That's the real question. No, you know what? I realized really early on with my other children that a routine is key to any baby, honestly, but especially when you're dealing with so many extras. Trying to keep that consistency definitely helps me. I know that I try to get my kids in bed by a certain time every night. I try to bathe my kids. And when I was doing the NAM, I would try to get this done by a certain time before bed, and just kind of keeping any kind of routine has been my saving grace because it's a lot. And working from home has also helped me, which is so hard to do. But working from home has definitely taken a big part in me staying sane because there's no way that I could have asked for that much time off with my daughter. So that has been such a blessing, honestly.
Yeah. The same goes for me as well. I was able to keep Giselle at home for the first year because I was also concerned about the same thing that you shared about my daughter actually had a choking experience too, and she was in the hospital when it happened. And I just hated the transfer of knowledge, having to repeat myself a lot to a lot of different people about something like a basic need, you know? And so I just didn't want to
Yes.
deal with it. And so I was, able to keep her home and have some help come to the house, sometimes, and just had people helping out with that. But it was a blessing because, as you said, she needed me more than, you know, I I had time, I needed to be able to take her to appointments and stuff like that, especially in the beginning. So yeah. You touched on this a little bit as well, but what is something that you wish people knew about children with cleft lip and palate in general?
I wish that they knew the extent of what they had to go through. Again, I get so many comments like, oh, well, it's going to be fine. She's going to look good when she's fixed. And there's nothing that aggravates me more than that. She's beautiful already. She will not only be beautiful when this lip is fixed, she is perfect the way that she is. And that is just that I can go on and on about that. But that's number one, is that I wish that they would recognize the struggle and the fact that they are beautiful the way that they are, with the NAM device, without the NAM device, with the cleft, the huge open cleft, It's especially hard for a cleft mom to hear that, just talking about when their child will be beautiful. I feel like it's a
Yeah.
little bit inconsiderate, just thinking of all the things that we have to go through and how we see our child is beautiful already. And it's hard to see that other people don't necessarily understand that.
Yeah. I feel sometimes people just, I don't know, maybe they don't know what to say. And so they just say what they think is right, but that it's completely not.
Definitely not right.
What do you think? I- You've been through a lot. I've enjoyed having this conversation with you because you have a wonderful spirit, right? Like you're really happy.
Oh, thank
And
you.
I can't tell that you've cried. I cannot tell that you've cried as much as you say that you have. But
Oh my goodness.
what has been the hardest part of your journey?
I think first and foremost, doing it while I was going through all of that court stuff did not help. But kind of doing it alone it's taken its tolls on me. But just seeing my daughter in pain, it just rips you in a way that you can't explain. There's nothing that I can do about it. So, like I said, throughout the process with Nam, there was nothing that I can do to quote unquote help her because I knew that in the long run, it was going to be beneficial for her after surgery. There was nothing that I can do to help her either. And right now we're expecting our palate surgery is going to be coming up soon. And I think just feeling helpless is definitely the hardest part because you know that you're doing this for their benefit, but it hurts you to see them hurt.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that is I've had those same feelings as well, especially around surgery time. Yeah, just having them go under to have any procedure, it's you always think like the what ifs, like yeah, it's just really hard. It's fear inducing, it's anxiety inducing. It's just a really tough thing.
Yeah.
So I like to ask the Cleft Mom question of the week, and I think maybe you may have some experience with this. So the Cleft Mom question of the week is: does anyone have any advice for scar massage? Our surgeon is having us do it before every feed. My baby hates it, and it's a little traumatic for both mom and baby. So did you have to do any scar massages after lip repair?
Yes. You know what? I try to do them as often as possible, but just like that parent, it is extremely difficult. It is, oh my gosh, I can't even begin to describe it. And again, you have to do it because it's going to help them. And yeah, like I said, it's just, I've gotten so many scar creams. And one thing that I have to do is wait until she's completely asleep to really get in there. I'm talking like an hour or two after she initially falls asleep for the night. That's when I can finally get in there. I do try to massage during feeds over the top, but I wouldn't put that much pressure because you're just going to drive yourself completely insane. Definitely wait until the baby is knocked out to try to get in there because you're really not going to be doing much while the baby's crying. You're trying to feed him or her. Yeah, that's my advice. Wait until the baby is completely asleep.
Yeah. So did they give you any information on what's the benefit of it? I know it reduces the appearance, but do you know I don't know, the technical part of it, why it helps? Did they explain that to you at all?
Yes, you know what? They just said, well, I mean, not I'm not a doctor again. Um they just said that it's supposed to help because I guess once you have that incision and that scar, it tends to tighten up and it will pinch up. So you kind of have to like go in there and that can affect like feeding later on. It can affect speech later on. So you want to go ahead and try to work to bring that tissue to soften up so that it can droop to be kind of even, like symmetrical. So that again, like I said, once you come to feeding solids and speech, nothing is having to be kind of like what's the word?
It's
I don't want to say altered.
tight.
Yes. Just want to make sure it's all even and the mouth is moving the way that it's supposed to. You know what? Thinking about this, my daughter's scar actually got really, really tight and her scar was really thick. And I was a little bit concerned because it did start to affect her nose a little bit. And it didn't really look quite right in comparison to all of the other scars that I've seen. But they did schedule me to go back in for a steroid shot to help with the scarring. So that's also something that you might want to bring up to your surgeon, is getting that steroid shot. The baby does have to go under, but it is such a minor procedure. They literally go under the anesthesia, they get the shot in their scar, and you can go home. Like, I think it's like an hour or two after that.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's
And
good to know.
Yeah, it helped significantly.
Wow. I like that. What other scar creams, you said that you bought a few. Did you see any like good ones that you would think that you would recommend?
You know what? I started using one from Amazon. It is kind of pricey. I think it's like $40. I asked for that for Christmas gift. It's called Biocornium. And that's the one that I've seen the most improvement with. Her scar used to be red and it's starting to turn more like a skin color. And it's definitely starting to reduce the amount of scarring that she has. So I learned to fall in love with that cream.
Good. Yeah. How good. I love that. Just in closing here, what would you say is like the biggest lesson that you've learned along the way?
I think the biggest lesson that I've learned is that it's okay to not be or feel strong. That is the number one, I guess, compliment that I get is, you're so strong. You're so strong. And half of the time I don't feel strong at all. And I don't think she does either. So I think realizing that no matter how many times I hear it, it's okay for me to not put that pressure on myself to be strong. It's okay to mourn and feel all the feelings that I'm feeling. Another big thing that I've learned, medically speaking, would be to ask the surgeon what different feeding options there are for a lip repair. I thought that the syringe was the only way to feed her. It turns out that there's these awesome feeding, I want to say not feeding tubes, they're almost like straws that helped out
Yes.
so much. And if I didn't ask about that, I would have been suffering in the hospital. So that's another big thing that I'm like, oh my gosh, I
Talking
wish.
about the little skinny cakes that go at
Yes,
the end?
yes.
Yes.
They're like tiny little tubes with these tiny little flimsy straws. Oh my gosh. Syringe feeding was the only option that I heard of until another mom told me about these other little bottles. Yeah, like I said, if I didn't ask about other feeding options, I don't even want to imagine where I would be right now. So definitely ask questions that you can. Write them down before appointments and ask all the
Yeah.
questions. That's the biggest lesson that I've learned too, is just basically keep a notebook. Every single thought you have, every single post that you've seen regarding cleft lip and palate, be sure to ask about it because you just never know.
Yeah. Yeah, even with that, it's like so for me, I actually didn't ask for it. But they didn't tell me that it was available. They just kinda gave it to me whenever after her palate repair, and it's actually for mine, the ones I saw, they were like an adapter to the syringe, so you just screwed it on, and then you could feed her through this little straw. It's like a microscopic straw. It literally is kind of a drip. And
Okay.
yeah, that was such a game changer for us because I was like, wow, this is wonderful. Cause that way I could just get her food through the side. And it could kind of go down. But just with that, right? If something isn't right or you feel like something is not going to work, someone else has had this feeling as well. And just ask, oh, is there another option here? As there's nothing people say, there's nothing new under the sun. I'm pretty sure the question that you have or you may be thinking has been asked before. And so they may have something that can help you with whatever concern or question that you may have. So that's wonderful advice to give. Yeah. Write everything down, all the thoughts that you have, and ask those questions.
Absolutely.
That's how you'll get the support that you need. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you again, Alexis, for being here with us today. Beautiful and wonderful guest. And just thank you all for listening to the Our Forever Smiles, Cleft Mom Diaries and Support podcast. Be sure to subscribe and submit a review of the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. I hope that you've enjoyed this audio experience. Maybe you cried a little, laughed a little, but more importantly, I hope that you have felt a little piece of reassurance and even joy in your journey. Talk to you next week.